brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking hosts, the good old boys. Suds. It's time for more Suds.
Hello and welcome to Sips, Suds, and Smokes. I am one of your hosts, good old boy Mike, for this Sud segment. Joining me today are good old boy Dave.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Good old gal Julieanna.
Hi, folks.
And Reverend Mark.
Pleased to be here.
I blew that. Is your mic on now, Julieanna? I just want to make sure. We didn't hear from you when you say hello. Yeah, I think we got that now. All right. Today's episode of this Suds is another sour beer show. We've selected some sour beers today, and if you've not heard our show before, our Suds segments are all about beer, and definitely more beer. Today's beers are going to be Boulevard Smokestack series, the Saison-Brett. We have a Kriek from New Belgium that we're going to be testing today as well. A Geuze Boon, is that right?
Yep.
And
Geuze.
I'm sorry, I definitely blew that.
Where's the hands?
I know.
Come on.
Where are the hands? I'm sorry. I let you guys down. And the Dogfish Festina Peche, and the last beer is the Dolle Oerbier. Are the beers that we have to taste today. If I mispronounced any of those, I'm sorry. I butchered the name of your beer. We will post these on Facebook, and you can take all of the practice you want pronouncing them correctly. Much better than me. We'll be tasting and discussing these beers and rating them with beer ratings, plus our signature belch sounds. And if you've not heard those, here are those belch sounds once again. Number 1 is "That sucks, give me anything but a bud." Number 2, "Was that a belch?" Number 3, "Ah, what a relief." Number 4, "A body should really not make that sound." Or Reverend Mark enjoying that cracker, depending on which way you liked it. Number 5 is "Listen to the hang time, give me another." Oh, wrong button there. All right, so those are our Suds ratings here on Sips, Suds, and Smokes. I want to thank my co-hosts for definitely sitting down and enjoying not only these really great beers, but have some great cheese, that we broke out for this as well. So Julieanna and I were chatting, right before we got here on the mics, and it really took a little bit of time to look at some cheese pairing with these style of beers that we've had today. And one of the things that I noticed was raw milk cheeses go very well with sour beers, as well as some aged goat cheese are two of the style of cheeses that we're having today. And I have to say, they rock. So if you're enjoying great beer, don't certainly skip over any food pairing items that you may have to go with that as well. All right, we have some great beers to talk about. I just can't wait to get on these because I enjoyed sitting down and tasting all these and going through our tasting notes. So first up is going to be Boulevard Smokestack series. This brewery is out of Kansas City, Missouri. We've had a lot of great beer from Boulevard. Good distribution, although it's not available in Tennessee, which is where we're actually recording from today, unfortunately. It's available both in bottles as well as on tap. Very common, especially in the Kansas City area through Kansas itself. You can definitely find a lot of Boulevard on tap through there. This is one of their first beers, I believe. It's a sour that they've produced. In a previous episode, we talked about what I consider a reference beer against Reverend Mark's Triple, which is their long strange triple. And I think it's probably one of the better commercial examples of a triple style. But this is definitely one of the first sours that they've produced. So this particular sour is at 8.5% ABV, and it is made with Brett is the style of sour that this is made with. If you want to learn more about various styles of sour beers, go back to our Sour Beer 101 show. Take a good listen to that. We'll definitely teach you all about various styles of sour beers, but this is definitely one made with Brett, and I think that it is right on par. My tasting notes for Boulevard Saison-Brett is, wow, this is tasty. It's really not that sour, and I wrote the word drinkable. Not for sipping. This is probably one of the few sour beers that I would say have a full pint, not just a snifter. Even though they tell you to serve it in a tulip style glass, I would say that you can definitely support having, a 16-ounce glass of this, pretty easily. So I really thought it was awesome. And for their first time creating a sour beer, I was very impressed. My SUDS rating for this is actually going to be a 4. The body should really not make that sound. Good old boy Dave, what'd you think of Boulevard's Saison-Brett?
Well, I really liked it. I'm not always a huge Saison fan. It's just, one of those personal preference things. But this one, the nose on it is very citrusy, and, it has a very light body. It's very, like you said, very drinkable. The cool thing about it is that when they made this, they used an actual quote-unquote normal, Saccharomyces yeast to do the primary fermentation, and they added the Brettanomyces when they bottled it. So that's probably why it's not overly sour, and it's still very drinkable, but it's got that nice bit of tartness to it. So I would definitely give this a 4.
A 4 as well. Body should really not make that sound. Good old gal Julieanna, what'd you think of Boulevard Saison-Brett?
Love. Okay, but getting past that, for those who enjoy Boulevard beers, which I love Boulevard beers in general, this is their Tank 7 on a sour twist. So this is the Tank 7 Farmhouse.
Wow.
Yes.
You really think that is the base of this? Oh, really?
For a fact.
Oh, wow.
Which is why I was trying to contain my excitement when you announced that you were bringing this beer.
She brings the facts. She
Wow.
does.
And I had the Tank 7. I would have brought it to taste them side by side.
Well, there's that.
So basically, they just add the 2 strains of bacteria to the Tank 7, and bingo, there you have the Saison-Brett. Is that it?
So the citrusiness that you're getting is, their Tank 7 is a dry hopped farmhouse ale.
Yep, that's right.
And so you're getting that grassiness, and you're getting that little hint of citrus, and then at the end you're getting that little Brett tinge, that gets to those to the back of your mouth. And it's perfect. I mean, because it's drinkable, it's enjoyable, and it's a Brett that anyone can enjoy. Some Bretts can be a little funky, and too much funky for them. So this is a great marriage.
So what's your SUDS rating on this?
I'm a 5-star on this one.
5. Listen to Hang Time. Give me another. Well, and I think, and that's true. I think if you're a big fan of Tank 7, I can see why this definitely, hits that same measure of appreciation you have. Reverend Mark, what do you think of Boulevard Saison-Brett then?
And we really haven't been talking about this before have gotten into it, but I am totally on board. I think
Yes.
You're on board now that you've had enough beer?
No. That first I said that this is, I think, the most complex of all the beers in that on this flight. Although I'm still sipping. I picked up the grapefruit too, but a little bit, on the nose, but not the grapefruit kind of thing that you normally pick up with, say, your citrusy American type hop experience.
Right.
It was more of an aftertaste, almost like a grapefruit acid, but not overly, but it just had kind of that acid kind of finish to it, very dry, I do like saisons. I mean, I brew a fair number myself, and this has just really given me, sort of a little bit of a nudge toward introducing the Brett into my secondary. I would be a little hesitant as a home brewer to just put it in right at the bottling, because if your beer is not completely attenuated, you're talking like hand grenades.
Explosions everywhere.
But I like it because, as it's already been pointed out, the wildness of that yeast is just kind of like, in the background, tantalizing you a little bit, but it's not clobbering you. And everything they've done I've liked. I'm not as much up on Boulevard as Julieanna, but I would have to say that next time, I'm going to be in a beer store this weekend. I'm going to be looking for everything they make.
Yeah.
There you go.
So what's your SUDS rating?
I'd give it a 4 easily.
Well, there you go. But you should really not make that sound for Saison-Brett. All around, great beer. And it was great that we lined up that one to taste first. Great start. So next up in our tasting here is going to be a Kriek from New Belgium. Their Lips of Faith series. And Kriek is a different style of sour. It's usually infused with cherries. And this is, again, another microbrewery that is actually breaking out and creating a sour for, I wouldn't say the first time. They've produced some other sour beers, but I think this is definitely the first Kriek that I'm aware of that they've put on the market. This particular beer is at ABV of 8%. New Belgium is out of Fort Collins, Colorado. This is considered actually a fruit beer, not a sour. Although I would say that it's, everything that I know about Kriek. It's definitely a lambic, and it has Polish cherries in it. So I'm not really quite sure why somebody would classify it other than a sour beer. But it it's definitely an interesting addition to the Lips of Faith series. And I like the fact that New Belgium is kind of broken out here a bit and stepping into the world of sour beers and exposing a lot of their base of people that have been enjoying their beers to something that is a different style than a lot of the other things that they produce. So I think that's great that they've not only decided to come out with a sour beer, but they chose to approach what I consider a very difficult style, which is Kriek. So with that, my tasting notes on Kriek Transatlantic from New Belgium, I thought it was balanced. Definitely tasted the cherries. I'm not particularly a fan of this style off the bat, and I thought it was kind of weak and watery for some reason as well. So with that, my SUDS rating was actually a 2 on this. Was that a belch? Good old boy Dave, what do you think about New Belgium Transatlantic Kriek?
Well, I kind of get why they would classify it as a fruit beer and not a sour. I don't think it was sour at all. It kind of tasted to me like maybe like a traditional American wheat with a little bit of cherry juice or something added at the end with no real secondary fermentation or anything, no real aging. And I think that's why it came across to you as sort of weak and watery, because there was no real aging or anything going on with this. So as a sour, grading it, since we're doing a sour show, I would grade it, as a failure, but as an overall, like a nice fruit beer, I think someone who likes fruit beers could really enjoy it. But since we're doing a sour show, as a sour, I will give it a 1.
Wow. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Good old gal Julieanna, what did you think of New Belgium's Lips of Faith Transatlantic Kriek?
Okay, so here's my fun or not so fun fact for this beer. Sorry, I'm like a techie. I'm a nerd. I want to know these things. So, for the first 2 years of existence of this beer, it was at the brewery Boon, who we had the...
Oh, yeah, we had the Geuze. The
Right,
Geuze.
and we had
we
the
also had
Geuze,
the Kriek.
Oh, yeah.
and they also had the Kriek.
That's true, the Kriek
Right.
Boon, right.
So it started off as a Boon Kriek for 2 years. And then New Belgium said, hey, can we borrow some of that? And they took it. And they added a golden lager to it. And so that's why you're getting
Very
this watered down, weaky, wishy-washy something. Yeah. So, that being said, yeah, it's a good color. There is a bit of acidity to it, but it is very weak, and I'm kind of really disappointed in it.
So what's your SUDS rating on this then?
I'm giving it a 2.
A 2, wow. Was that a Belge? Reverend Mark, what'd you think about this Kriek?
Well, I think we're up the creek without a paddle.
He's been waiting to say that.
Hey, I'm telling you, he sat on that for at least 10, 15 minutes, didn't he?
On one hand, the old saying, if less is more, that then this may have really hit the mark, because it is less.
That's for sure.
You do get the cherry tartness there. I did note that it is if it is a Kriek at all, that is one that I could have a pint of easily.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's just really not that hard to approach. But I think that these kinds of beers, are more for drinking like as an aperitif, or just something that is a little bit more concentrated, and you're savoring it slowly for the intensity and the complexity. So this is just lacking in all that. I didn't know that about the lager dimension to this beer.
That
And
explains a lot.
That to
what I was
me
tasting anyway.
is just showing you one more, or is telling us one more chapter in the book of the Americanization of world beer. That is not a very nice commentary on what's happening. That I think that we need to really, urge from homebrewing, from a homebrewing standpoint, for folks to really try to brew as true to style as possible, and then, branch into this kind of thing just, every once in a while. But I think that they have taken it, into where it's, I don't even know what kind of category to put it into, other than it's a fruit beer.
Yeah.
So I would give it a 2.
Oh. Well, I think all the way around, I think we'd just say that was, did not work very well.
Yeah, I think like Mark said, it's the American tendency to shape the style to the palate instead of letting your palate grow to accept the style.
Yeah, well, it definitely is very difficult, and especially after that story, that really explains quite a bit of what, I was tasting, other than that cracker from Reverend Mark.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, why put a lager with it? If you're gonna do something different and kind of twist it up, like a Ben & Jerry's special, then why not a Saison? Something that's lighter.
Yeah.
Lager, yeast can tend to be very
Crisp.
Right?
Yeah. And
Anyways.
instead of rounding out what it probably would have been in the Boon Kriek to begin with, and having tasted that, I could see where that would have been too tart for the American palate, and I can see that they wanted to soften it a bit, but I think combining it with a golden lager, there's just no way I would have seen that coming. So anyway,
I do know that New Belgium is very committed to its sour beer program. I was at the GABF 2 years ago, and we were able to go to Fort Collins, and I took a pick of their sour beer program. So there is some of they're committed to it. I doubt if this came out of this. I'm showing everybody a picture of their very, very tall barrels. Kudos to New Belgium. I think they're great.
Well, so I look forward to Kriek 2.0. There you go. Yeah. And I think they've probably learned from this.
There are a lot of American craft breweries that are doing some really good sours, though. We had one in January from Highland in North Carolina, and it was amazing. We actually probably drank half the cask because we just kept getting back in line.
Yeah, I had some good sours as I was in North Carolina recently as well. I think there was one from Old Hickory that I had that was not even on the market yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, and a lot of great breweries in that part of the country. Sure. All right. Well, let's move on to Geuze.
Geuze.
Yeah, as I'm getting both the pronunciation and the hand gesture correctly.
You're redeeming yourself.
I'm getting there. Geuze Boon is what we were tasting here. Traditional lambic ale, ABV of 7%, right on the money. This is, I would say, very referenceable. If I would consider, my definition of a Geuze, this would probably be right in the wheelhouse. So my tasting notes on this are solid. But something happened. Something was off. I could not, and usually I can kind of narrow it down and figure out what it is. It was a little too malty, a little too sweet or something. I just could not put my finger on it, but there was just something that was off in this today. So I've had this before, and I definitely consider it very much a reference style Geuze. I don't know if there's just something up with this bottle that's just tossed me off. Who knows? It could have been something else I ate alongside this. I can tell you that the Midnight Moon cheese that we had with this totally rocked, and it was a great pairing between the two. So maybe that adds some influence. But anyway, so my SUDS rating for the Geuze Boon is going to be a 2. Was that a Belge? Good old boy Dave, what do you think about Geuze Boon?
Well, I think one of the things I noticed, and it was pretty carbed, and a lot of sours, like Julieanna had said before, that they're not always as heavily carbed, and that might have been something that was throwing it off a little bit. I think it's a pretty good Geuze, as far as that goes, and it's pretty light in body, nice tart flavor. I give it a 3.
A 3. What a relief. Good old gal Julieanna, what'd you think of Geuze Boon?
Normally, I like this a lot because I do like between this and the Kriek. But like Dave was saying, it was a little too carb for me, and I wasn't getting the ginger that I normally get out of the Geuze, which is something I look for because I like that sharp flavor that comes in a traditional Geuze. So, but other than that, it is a good golden standard of what a Geuze should be, and it's more accessible than some of the others that are out there that are pretty top notch. For this one, I'm giving it a 3.
A 3. What a relief. Reverend Mark, what'd you think of that cracker or of the Geuze?
You know about the cracker. I've been snapping those crackers for a while here. I would say that if you're going to embrace the funk, this is a good one to get in that'll bring you to the party. It's not the best Geuze that I've ever had, but that means it's not the most challenging either. I've taken some really good Geuzes to like family gatherings and said, try this. This is very different. And people will pour a pint of it, which they shouldn't.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And then they're going, this is interesting. And then you're looking over, 10 minutes later, and they're pouring it down the sink.
Yeah. Are those family that you like or don't like?
You decide. You know my family.
I do.
Yeah. I would say, though, that this is a straight-up lambic. It's no apologies. It's there's some yeastiness that I think is always a part of what this just a straight lambic experience is about. I think it is a next step on the road that leads toward funkiness. It's not the best, or it's not the sort of the, I wouldn't say the benchmark example, but it's not bad. So, I'm going to be generous and give it a 3.
A 3. I would relieve. All right. With that, we definitely swing both our taste buds as well as the style of beers around. Next up is Dogfish Head. Festina Peche is the next beer that we have. So this is a a seasonal beer that Dogfish makes, usually every late spring, kind of summertime. It's usually when the boys of Milton actually put this out, which I find interesting. They probably have to brew this in January. So I got actually brewing this in January, the dead of winter in Delaware, and having to make this, light, summer beer, at the same time. ABV on this is 4.5%, and you have to navigate Dogfish unique distribution model in order to find it, but you can definitely find it in bottles and on tap both. I had this both in a bottle and I had it on tap, and I actually am going to split a couple of comments about this across both those experiences. The one we are having today is in a bottle, and my tasting notes on the Festina Peche. You gonna say Peche or Peche?
Thinking Peche.
Potato, patata. We're gonna go with Peche.
Peche.
Well, that's exactly what I started with, was peachy. And it is definitely a more fruit beer than I would consider sour beer. It is classified as a Berliner Weiss, and it struck me as a Berliner Weiss that had peaches or fruit added to it, more so than a sour beer, but it was a little bit sour and tart, so I think that's why some people think this would be a sour beer, and I would consider this more of a fruit beer if we're splitting hairs. I wrote down the word wimpy. I just felt like it just lost itself, on my palate, and it just came and went so fast. It had a really good nose, though, and I enjoyed, really the aroma of this beer exceptionally. The first time I had this was actually on tap, and I will tell you that was the thing that really captured me, was definitely the aroma of this beer, more so than the taste of the beer itself. And in fact, I actually did not know what I was tasting when I had it on tap. Somebody just handed the glass to me and said, "Hey, this is new beer from Dogfish Head. I want you to see what you think about it," and not knowing anything about it and just tasting it, up blind. I enjoyed the nose, but I actually did not enjoy the beer. And, after I finally figured out, what I was tasting, I was like, well, this is a sour beer. And then I'm like, well, it's not sour enough to be a sour beer. Something's up with this. And I knew that I'd had this before, but it's been like probably 3 years since the last time I'd had it. So I definitely enjoyed it better on tap than I did on a bottle, which is not unusual for a lot of beers, but definitely for this one. But for this bottle today and for the Festina Peche, my SUDS rating is going to be 3. What a relief. Good old boy Dave, what'd you think of Dogfish Head, Festina Peche?
Well, I would definitely agree with you, Peche, who knows. It's definitely more of a fruit beer. I think that someone who likes fruit beers and who likes peaches would definitely enjoy this beer. It's not so high in alcohol that you couldn't enjoy it. Now, having said that, we're doing a sour show today, and this is a Berliner Weiss. The first time I had a Berliner Weiss was in Philly a year or so ago, and when I first tasted it, I thought someone had put malt vinegar in my glass, and I was like, whoa, totally blew me up. But, then I started drinking it, and I could feel the complexity, and on those beers, the alcohol content's generally very, very low, about 3% or so. And they're meant to have a nice, clean, acidic, dry finish that really cleanses your palate and really, quenches your thirst. And actually, with Berliner Weiss beers, the traditional way to serve them is with a little bit of fruit syrup poured into the beer to balance it out.
Huh. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
I learned something new.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of think maybe that's what they were shooting for with this. I think maybe they overshot it a little bit with the peach. It's got nice peach in the nose, nice peach in the flavor, but I'm not getting the sour. So as a fruit beer, I'd rank it fairly well, but as a sour, I'm going to give it a 2.
A 2. Was that a belch? Good old gal Julieanna, what'd you think of Dogfish Head, Festina Peche?
First of all, yay to Dogfish for coming back to Tennessee. Just saying that. They're not here yet, but they will be soon. and thank flipping God.
Oh, yes.
Because there are some Dogfish Head beers that I really enjoy and am gratefully looking forward to seeing
we have
again.
we have a lot more coming up on the show, in future our production schedule. So
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so saying that, according to their website, that's exactly what they wanted to do, was create a Berliner Weiss where the fruit was already added in, so you don't have to worry about adding that flavor to it. And, they're viewing it as an aperitif kind of cleanse or palate cleansing beer. So, sure. If you don't smell it as it's going down, then yeah, it could be an aperitif. But
I think this would hang tough with the summer brat, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. But coming off the Geuze that we just talked about, it is not anywhere near being a sour. It is just a slightly tart.
Berliner Weiss.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's your SUDS rating on this then?
Going with the 3.
Now 3. What a relief. Reverend Mark, what'd you think about Dogfish Head Festina Peche?
I'll have to say that the Berliner Weiss for me is the one beer that I have yet to approach as a home brewer that I really would do with great fear and trepidation. It's kind of like a Pilsner. Well, not in terms of the way it tastes, but in terms of how you approach it in terms of brewing, because it's a very complex kind of beer to brew. But the product itself is very straightforward if you've achieved your goals. I don't think that this is a good Berliner Weiss as just sort of the backbone. If I'm evaluating this beer on the basis of it's a Berliner Weiss that has had peach added to it, I'm not impressed. I would say it's a fruit beer. It almost tastes to me like an American wheat ale with peach.
Yeah.
I mean, I would almost go so far as to say that maybe this beer would have been better reviewed on the Lawnmower Beer Show.
Yeah.
Because I could see serving this beer really cold, really, really, really cold.
Yeah.
It's low in alcohol, and it is thirst quenching, but it just is a one-dimensional beer. Doesn't mean it's a bad beer. I just don't think it really delivers everything it says on the label. So in that regard, I'll give it a 2.
A 2. Was that a belch as well? Well, I think it's interesting summary, around certainly what we thought about that beer. And, I think our conversation seems to echo a lot of conversations that I have around Dogfish Head, which is, what is that? And I think that I like the fact that Sam and the crew they're constantly pushing the definition of categorized beers. It's their motto: off-centered ales for off-centered people. And I don't know that this one fits that motto, but at the same time, listening to our conversation, we had as much discussion about what is it and what it's not. And I thought, wow, that's a typical Dogfish conversation, if there ever is one. Wow, talk about a crescendo moment. I can't wait to get to this next beer. We've waited an entire 30 minutes to get around to this, and I just, poof.
Ta-da!
Yeah, so Dolle Oerbier is the next beer that we have to talk about. This is from a brewery out of Belgium, Dolle Brouwers, however you say that. It's actually classified as a Belgian strong ale, and a little bit difficult to find this. It has good distribution, so they definitely move the beer around, but I think part of the problem is, again, it's just, I don't think that a lot of retailers would move this, and I think that's the reason why it's a little difficult to find this beer. So I look forward to all of your comments around this beer. I can't wait to share what I thought about it, which was just wow. I mean, holy cow. This was really a great beer. I know this is a sour beer show, and this definitely had some elements of being sour. I wrote down just deep, dark fruits, almost kind of prune. When I went back and tasted it after it warmed up, I think that was the underlying fruit that I kept on coming back around. But I mean, just very well balanced, just a great beer. me want more of this all day long. And actually, it's a 5 on my SUDS rating. So, and you guys know definitely don't give it up for just anything. And I'm just, the only thing I'm disappointed about is I only have the one bottle today. Good old boy Dave, what do you think of the Dolle Oerbier?
Well, first off, I'm glad you shared your one bottle with us because it is a tremendous beer. What is this one, 9%? I think so.
That is correct. The ABV is 9%. I'm sorry.
I don't get a lot of sour. I didn't get any at all when it was cold. I get a little bit now. I get maybe some sour, kind of raisiny flavor. I attribute that more to what I really got out of it was like caramelization and burnt sugars in this one. And to me, this one sort of speaks to why most sour beers have low alcohol content. Because when you have a high alcohol content beer, usually there's a lot of maltiness and a lot of sweetness from that malt, and the sour can't really balance out with that. Having said that, this would be a great beer to have with dessert. Like you can make an ice cream float with this.
Yeah,
thing.
we're all nodding our head.
It would blow your
agree.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Strangely, I don't know, a good slab of cheesecake. I just, for whatever reason, just was the first thing. that
Bread
came
pudding
up.
with some hard sauce.
Yeah.
There you go.
That all I think would work with this. I agree.
Make a creme brulee with this.
I think I'll just have the beer.
Yeah. But no, I think as a sour beer, no. But as a beer, this is a 5.
No. There you have it. Listen to the hang time. Give me another. Good old gal Julieanna, what did you think of the Dolle Oerbier?
My little fun fact for this brewery is that what it means in Belgium is the Mad Brewers. Which, kind of explains how they made this mad.
Yes. So a couple of the other notes that I had that were, this is actually brewed with no less than 6 different malts. Mm-hmm. And I think that complexity of the malts, I think, is what is adding to the complexity of the flavor, that we're tasting as well. I'm sorry, I jumped in.
No worries. The thing that I like about this one is that the sourness comes from lactobacillus, and that's a little bit more subtle than some of the other souring agents. So I like that's what drew me in right from the get-go, because I like having that funky milk tasting, because I enjoy. One of my favorite beers to brew is a stout. I'm crazy on stouts right now, and I'll use lactose in mine.
Sounds like another stout show on the horizon with that.
Yes.
Reverend Mark and I say, yeah.
So anyways, so I enjoy seeing something that has lactobacillus in it, but I was getting fig and I was getting prune and I was getting all of these crazy fruits that I want to look for and want to enjoy more than the traditional. And it was a great way to end this flight because we've had cherries and we've had peaches, and now we have, the darker, deeper, the misfit group of fruits that to me stands up and makes a beer so great. So I hate to be redundant, but I'm giving this a 5 as well.
Wow. There you have it. Listen to that hang time. Give me another. Reverend Mark, what did you think of the Dolle Oerbier?
Well, I rated it as it's interesting with we led with and have ended with the best. I love the Boulevard Saison-Brett. And this one to me, it was sumptuous. I love it was very mellow in that, I guess because they had cold aged it for so long, it was just so rounded. It's like nothing really just jabbed at you. It just all kind of melted and just sort of dissolved, and then you got all these different flavors eventually. I found that it had a very nice yet very sort of peripheral lactic twang. It wasn't overdone. So it definitely fits within, sort of our discussion today of sour beers. But there's more to it than just that.
Yeah.
I would not say that this is a quaffable beer, which means that I say that to its credit. This is not the kind of beer that you would just be throwing back.
No.
This is a beer that you would just like.
I would savor this.
You would sit down and talk to this beer, you know, and let it talk to you.
Yeah.
I like that. What's the new job? Beer whisperer.
Yeah, right.
What is that guy doing over there? He's talking to the beer.
Got that bottle
Hello,
up in his
Mr.
ear.
Oerbier. How are we doing today? Are we figgy? Are we pruny?
As just a hobby brewer, you know, I'd like to, you know, I'm wondering what kind of base malts they're using. I mean, I can guess it. I know that there's some special B in there of some kind, you know, to give it that fig, give it that dark fruit. But I'm thinking in terms of their base malts, they've got to be using, of course, some Pilsner and some Munich, maybe some Vienna. But it's just. This is one of those kinds of beers that I do not want. The fact that you only had one bottle tells you why it's so good, because this is just not a mass-produced kind of thing. You can't do this in mass.
Yeah.
And I am so thankful that there are beers like this that are around. So maybe I'll have to take it a step beyond initially I thought that the Boulevard Saison-Brett was the best of the 5, but I'll take this at least a step beyond that. I gave the Saison-Brett a 4, so I'll concur with everybody else here with the sort of collective wisdom and give it a 5.
Wow. Listen to that hang time. Give me another. Well, what a wonderful flight of beers, and such a great discussion about such a broad range of beers as well. I really enjoyed the Dolle Oerbier there at the end. What a great finish it was to this tasting, as always. Well, hope you enjoyed the discussion once again, and share your thoughts with us on Twitter, on Facebook. You can reach us on iTunes. Be sure and check out our contest, which is probably in flight as this goes into production as well and broadcast. I want to thank my co-host for joining me for another great tasting of sour beers. Thank you, Dave.
It was a pleasure.
Good old gal Julieanna.
Thank you. Cheers to
And
everyone.
Reverend Mark.
Look forward to being with you later.
Thank you again for joining us. This is good old boy Mike. I'm going to ask you to keep on sipping.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sips, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see you all next time.